So I'm back into matcha again, man.
Did you get off matcha? I feel like whenever we go, you
You,
actually get
yeah, I mean, I have I go through these, periods of loving matcha and hating matcha, but now
like
I'm
these
back,
lulls in
yeah,
matcha life.
yeah, back into loving matcha again. It's kind of like, your side chick. Like sometimes you gotta get onto the main train and then you gotta get back on the side chick. But that's matcha's back in the life. That's all I
Okay.
gotta say.
Are you so do you do this thing where do you get the powder, you make that shit at home, or do you actually
I
are you
mean,
more of a going out and getting matcha kind of person and just finding the right matcha for
I
you?
do a little bit of both. I mean, there's like the advent of matcha has now come to the point where it's so mainstream that they've made matcha where any fucking dumb person can like just throw it into a glass of water and, spin it
Sure.
up with like a fork. You don't need that like brush, the fancy looking brush that
Okay.
fucking, LA hipster chicks love to use.
I actually don't know that much about matcha besides it kind of tastes kind of grassy.
It's grassy as fuck, bro. Like, yeah, I could totally imagine people, especially like the coastal elites or, people from Austin. I've seen them like really enjoying using that fucking brush on the matcha.
Yeah.
Every time I look at that, I get grossed out because I don't want to be like those people.
All right, enough about coffee. Want to start this?
Let's get it.
All right, folks. Welcome to another Debatable at Best podcast where we talk about everything from global markets, the economy, life, and bad coffee, but also maybe bad matcha. We'll see. But don't expect answers over here, just perspective. I am your host, Ray.
My name is Amol, and today Ray is going to be opening up with GLP-1s.
Yep. GLP-1s. It's this, considered this miracle drug on the market, right? And a lot of people don't know actually or exactly how it works. But
Yeah, I definitely
everyone
don't.
knows, yeah, and it's just known as the quote unquote weight loss drug, right? So here's what actually happens, right? So the GLP-1 drug, first of all, mimics a natural hormone in your body called, and I'm gonna butcher this name now, but I can spell it off, or you can check the show notes later for how it's spelled. It's glucagon like peptide 1. That's the actual protein or whatever it is, right? And its main effects are going to be one of or all these three things: reducing your appetite, it slows the stomach emptying, and it improves insulin release in high blood sugar states.
Oh, wow.
So that's what it does. So, as far as insulin goes, when you eat your cookie,
Yeah,
right?
which I eat a lot of.
Right. You're going to eat it, and then as soon as your body detects the blood sugar, your your body rushes in with insulin to kind of control that sugar level, and voila, you've gotten your sugar levels back down again. Obviously, with these kind of drugs are prescribed more or less to people who are overweight.
Fat.
We can use the word fat, I guess. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
usually prescribed to people who are fat, overweight, whatever you want to call it, really high on the BMI, like not high, but like damn. So
Big Bertha.
yeah. And if you have any type of, heart related diseases like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, any one of those things. So there's actually two major brands or sects, if you want to call it. There's the semi-glutide variety, which is your Ozempic, which is specifically given for diabetes treatment, right? And there's Wegovy, which is specifically formulated for weight loss. That's the semi-glutides. Now, the second sect is your trizipatides, which is Manjaro, again,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of
diabetes.
that one.
Yeah. And then Zepbound, which again is formulated specifically for weight loss. Now, apparently, these drugs, once you're on them, can often get rid of between 10 to 15% of body weight over months.
Damn.
I
That's
know.
a lot, dude.
Yeah, 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
That's great. So, I mean, theoretically, if someone's like 100 pounds, you're getting rid of 15 pounds.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? Did I do that math right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So you're
crazy.
getting rid of 15 pounds within months.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's safe that fast.
Yeah. So believe it or not, right? So this came on the scene, what, like 22? Yeah, 22. And apparently, as this is as of last year, 26.5% of US adults with diagnosed diabetes used a GLP-1 injectable.
Damn.
So think about that. So
that's a lot.
you have 4 friends you're sitting with, at least one of them has been on GLPs.
I feel attacked.
Yeah, and to put this in perspective, an American population, that's almost 7 million people.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's so, again, if you take US adults, right, that's 12% of the US adult population.
Wow.
Right. So, or I should say, they've at least tried it to some degree. That's based on survey data. So, that's where we are at now. But prescriptions are going through the roof. Everyone's trying it.
Yeah, these drug companies must be making a fucking killing.
Yeah. I mean, so
Wait, is one of them by Eli Lilly?
Yeah.
Or
So
Novartis or something?
So the original Ozempic was made by Novo
Okay.
Nordisk, out of, I believe, Sweden or Norway.
Yeah.
One of the Nordic countries. And they built the drug, they trialed it, got FDA approval, put it on the market, and this went gangbusters, right? Not like demand was way surpassing supply. So what ended up happening, actually, funny kind of tangent on the story, is that it got to a point where this drug was so popular, it was put on the FDA short list, or on the list for shortage drugs, which effectively was, I don't know if you want to call this like a curse in disguise, but that's kind of what it was. Like, you've made a drug so popular, you're on a short list for the FDA.
Yeah.
But effectively what that triggers now is all these other compounding pharmacies to go out there, take the recipe, give or take, and create the same drug effectively and sell it to the population.
Yeah.
So it got so bad to the point on Novo's side is that they had to lay off thousands of workers because their drug was effectively and legally being ripped off.
Damn.
Yeah. So I kind of feel bad for Novo, and they're kind of like, I don't know exactly how they will recover from this. I don't know. Maybe I know it's right now, it's off the FDA short list of, drugs that are in shortage.
Sure.
So I don't know how they're going to recover, what they're going to do next, but I kind of feel bad for them. It's like they did really good. They made this drug. Then Eli Lilly kind of went in and made their own version of the drug, and everyone's copying them. And then the guy who originally did the work gets kind of,
shafted.
Yeah, cut at the knees for.
I actually thought that the drug world was pretty good with patents and stuff.
Right, but what kind of hurt them was getting on the FDA shortlist of drugs that are, or I keep saying shortlist, but on the list of drugs that are in shortage.
Sure.
Once you get on that list, it effectively allows any compounding pharmacy to make the drug to fill the gap in the supply, not the supply chain, but in the demand for people wanting the drug.
Oh, so it's the FDA kind of giving everybody the green light, saying
to be like, you should do that. You can go ahead and do this drug, even though they have a patent on it and it's their kind of research behind it, their development cost behind it. So the drug being super popular actually kneecapped them.
That's kind of crazy, because I figured that drug companies are smart enough to recognize, anticipate like future demand, because once you already have the formula, like, it's not that hard to make like a couple of extra million pills, well,
these are injectables, so just to be clear.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, even then, like, at scale, you could start bringing those costs down. I don't know. I don't feel bad for Novartis, whatever the company is, and I feel like they already make billions. So,
yeah, they are a big drug maker, predominantly only insulin makers. So this was kind of a new frontier for them anyway, because they kind of had the market somewhat cornered in that insulin market. you know?
Gotcha.
So this is kind of a new thing for them. They're like, let's push, you know, what it seems like to me is like, let's push this a little bit. Let's push the boundaries and, you know, let's make something new. So they put a lot of R&D into making these drugs. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still feel bad for them. I still think like, hey, they did all the legwork, and because of some rules at the FDA, you know, other, you know, compounding pharmacies were able to just literally copy their homework.
Yeah.
But here's one thing that not a lot of people are talking about, and isn't really even getting the headlines, I think, is that there is actually a lot of short-term and what we're seeing now long-term effects, or potentially long-term effects, of using these drugs.
That's what I've been hearing, dude. It's kind of like you're given this miracle drug of, solving the problems that ail a lot of people in America, especially.
Mm.
And at the same time, it's kind of like, wait, is this the drug that's going to give you, I don't know, like some solution to the diabetic and weight uh problems while giving you like 8 other problems?
Yeah, exactly. And like some of the biggest like short-term side effects that people are seeing are generally like GI related issues.
Ooh.
So like, you know, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, or, you know, early fullness when you're eating, that kind of stuff. I think the drug has a little bit to do with the early fullness part, because it's supposed to make you eat less generally.
Sure.
But like the nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, that's a little bit concerning, you know, on the short term end. But I guess you know, you'd have to work with your doctor on dosage and just making sure that kind of stuff is working well for you, because you don't want to be taking too much. You kind of have to titrate into it. So you want to start with the least dose possible. I think with anything, that's kind of how it works. But there are some serious long-term risks that, as I've been looking into this a little bit more, I didn't realize kind of come up. So one thing is, with these GLP-1 drugs, they kind of seem to be like these lifer drugs.
Yeah.
And like what I mean by that is you effectively have to keep taking this drug over and over again. Or if you don't, right, and I think most people are kind of assuming, or not assuming this, but it's happening to them. They're kind of putting the weight just right back on again. So
Oh shit.
yeah, so like the weight's just kind of coming right back. I don't know if people are having any types of withdrawal symptoms or anything like that from using the drug. I don't think that's there. But it's just like you got to keep using it in order to keep the weight off and keep the cravings away, because that's what some people feel like it is. It helps keeps the cravings away too. And you just got to stay on it. But some other long-term concerns that people are seeing are like one big thing is acute pancreatitis has been reported.
Jeez.
Yeah. Which, you know, a warning sign of that is severe abdominal pain radiating to the back. And, you know, if something like that is happening to anyone, that requires immediate medical attention. You need to go speak to a doctor, get to an ER right away. Not only that, due to the rapid weight loss, we're seeing high rates of gallstones and gallbladder removal. Blech. Can't talk today for some reason. And then rare instances, kidney injury. What's the other one? Thyroid C-cell tumor warnings. Mental health considerations to think about. Some people have mood shifts and start becoming suicidal.
Oh my god.
Yeah, which is, you know, very important to be monitored. And then there's also some long-term unknowns, right? So like I said about the significant weight gain coming back. And it just, you know, it raises some questions about what the long-term cost and access is going to be like for a drug like that, right? Which is what we're somewhat touching on earlier. And there's really no studies out there that look at the drug like over a decades-long use.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think the problem in society is right now, all this innovation, especially in the pharma world, is coming about from decades of research. And, we are hitting this point in society where people don't necessarily want to work out, or there's a lot of, work done stationary at home.
Yeah.
And so these drug solutions are effectively, the easy, quick solve solution.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just yeah, there's just not enough data to show that, hey, this is going to be a safe solution for a problem that has really evaded, humanity for a long time, which is diabetes or weight loss, and not ensuring like your life overall will be okay getting rid of these problems. I don't know. I would love for our audience to sort of, you know, give us an understanding of what the heck did they think? Like, have they used it before? I know within my family's friend circle, a few people have, and 50% have had decent experiences, 50% not so good. I don't know if you have any of those people.
Yeah, I mean, I know of a few people that are kind of on the drugs, and the kind of immediate results have been, yeah, I've lost significant weight. Yeah, I've kind of reduced my cravings on this. There have been a lot of positives. I think while kind of, and this kind of is my perspective, I feel like while the safety risks exist, um, they're there, but they seem to be generally infrequent, but, still very much a problem. And the bigger challenge is really understanding what long-term use looks like.
Sure.
Right. So like, you know, pancreatitis and like, the liver issue, or sorry, kidney issues, gallbladder problems, like that's all stuff that's there right now. So I'm just kind of, my curiosity peaks and, okay, what does long-term use look like? One, from a medical perspective. Two, do you lose so much weight where, have you ever heard of that term Ozempic face?
Yeah, I have. I
So
don't know what it means.
like Ozempic face is effectively like you've lost so much weight that it just looks like when you look on your face, effectively you just look bony.
Oh, it's
Like
like
the
cocaine face.
almost, yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
like
what that
you
means, by
lose
the
so
way.
much fat and like, just mass off of your face that like you just look kind of sickly, but that's just Ozempic doing the job of just shedding the weight effectively.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, and then like a good example of this is, have you seen Karan Johar recently?
Yeah.
He's a good example of Ozempic face.
Dude, you know what's crazy is someone told me that a lot of Bollywood has been using Ozempic. And funny enough, when I watch like YouTube videos or I see Instagram reels and stuff, I can totally see how in several months these people have shed all this weight. There's no fucking way
Right.
that they spontaneously got a trainer and they just, got rid of their bad habits of eating and somehow they're in the gym like, 4 hours a day.
Like another good example is
That's that
Kapil
Zempic.
Sharma, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kapil Sharma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you seen it? Like
Yes, I have. Yeah.
it's crazy. So I'm like, the other thing is, so there's that, like, the Ozempic face thing. The other thing is the financial cost, right? Like, will a GLP-1 be as common as a statin and cost as much as a statin?
Yeah, that's a
Right?
good question.
Because right now they're give or take about $1,000, right? I think it's per vial.
Damn.
Right. And then we've talked about this off the show, but Costco is going to bring in Ozempic, and it's going to be $500 for, I think, 4 to 6 weeks worth of drugs. And you have to have the membership and you have to have a prescription, but you can get it from Costco around like, yeah, $500 for that 4 to 6 weeks of injectables, which is a lot less than the 1,000 that they're kind of charging for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know Costco's getting into that game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like it or not.
I mean, they have a pharmacy, so I mean, I feel like they would have to supply what is now a generally Main Street drug if a decent amount of American population is taking it,
Yikes.
So I feel like they would have to supply it, but they probably cut a really good deal with Novo, obviously, it
Of
seems
course.
like. I mean, $500,
Yeah.
So cost is another aspect of it. Long-term use, obviously, what is your current use? And then if you can't get off the drug, right, what does that mean for your health going forward? Just the long-term use aspect kind of gives me pause.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I am with that.
Yeah. No, this is a really interesting topic. Yeah, I definitely want to leave it open-ended for our audience to give us insight on if they were users or they are users or they know of people,
Yeah.
It's definitely obviously Ozempic is not going away. Fat people are not going away anytime soon. So this is going to be a topic of discussion, I feel like, for the foreseeable future.
Do you think, and this is kind of just a side question now that I just thought of it, do you think big food is this is their ploy?
Ooh, that's a really, I don't know, man. I would not put it past them.
Because they're not going to want to stop selling food, and if you can shed the weight really quickly.
Dude, sprinkle a little bit of that on my chicken nuggets, on my cookies, and you got a customer.
Your ammonia bleached chicken nuggets from McDonald's.
Yeah. It reminds me of like this movie that came on Netflix. I think it's called something Tyrone. I remember it's a hilarious movie. I think that it is like one of those topics where you wonder, does the government sprinkle random shit on your food? Or people have had this debate about chemtrails and stuff in your water. Anyway, this movie's very similar to that. I don't want to give spoilers, but it's about basically
how long has this movie been out?
About a year.
Actually, okay. Yeah. Only a year. Okay. I was going to say, if it's been out for like 15 years, then you can give away spoilers as much as you want.
No.
Okay, all right.
It's been about a year, but yeah, definitely go watch it. I think it's like something Tyrone.
Okay.
Anyway, we got to move on to the next topic, dude.
Let's
something less sciencey, but also just as cool. Privacy.
Yes. Everyone loves their privacy.
We do love our privacy, dude. I don't know about you, but I use VPN a lot. Do you?
I do. I use I actually just recently got NordVPN.
Okay, NordVPN. I use Express, and I mean the funny thing is, like, a lot of people use VPNs, right? I think especially young people. I'm sure other people around the world, especially countries like India or China or really wherever, if you want to be able to access certain libraries, certain websites, you're inclined to use VPN, right?
I've used a VPN multiple times when I'm traveling overseas and want to access like Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's generally one of the main purposes of younger people using it. For myself, I've been using VPN probably for like close to a decade plus, partially because technologies or certain resources that we wanted to access, whether it was in crypto, whether it was in tech, they were just sort of not available to us from a regional geographical perspective. For example, in crypto, exotic like derivative instruments where you're trading futures, illegal in America, right? Unless you're like an accredited investor or you have like a certain license or, maybe a certain fund allows you or broker allows you to do so. Whereas, in crypto, these exchanges have been around for close to a decade, and they allow you, almost infinite leverage, insane amounts of risk. And so that was one of the reasons why a lot of us in crypto got into it. But the topic of today is, more so about privacy to oneself, right? Aside from accessing things, it's more about, well, what do you not want accessed about you?
Well, okay, I don't know if this throws a wrench into the whole topic that you're going to bring up, but are you specifically talking very personal privacy things? Or are you mostly talking about internet footprint, digital footprint? Because when people hear privacy, I think that's what they're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all encompassing, right? I think privacy nowadays is this larger terminology where if you kind of think about your digital footprint, that's one. If you kind of think about the devices in your home, that's another. If you think about the money that you're moving back and forth, that's another. So privacy, I think, again, all encompassing. And so let's start off with, I don't know, your digital footprint, right?
Okay.
Whether it's Facebook and Instagram pictures that are out there on the web, easy for everybody to access. Maybe your identity gets stolen. Maybe someone is masquerading you. I've heard numerous amounts of stories where a person is being reached out to in DMs with the same name and the same profile picture of another person, right? And they're asking for money. or they're now using AI technology with the same voice, because
Yeah, I think that is scary to a lot of people.
isn't it like
The AI spoofing and the what is the actual term for it again? God, there's a term for it. Why is it escaping me?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's kind of like you know, where a few months back they used
Deep fakes.
deep fakes, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they used that shit in election campaigns. Remember, like, they had weird videos of Trump and Biden like saying all kinds of ludicrous stuff. But I think humanity itself, like every single person, is now susceptible to this, right? Especially with AI, all the deep fake stuff. And so what that kind of does is, I think we're getting into a place in society where you have to figure out how do you put locks on your own privacy, right? How can you add more encryption? How can you basically be more evasive from the attackers around the world who are
Yeah.
going to use this stuff inevitably? It's inevitable, right?
Right.
Bad actors, I think, will always rise to the top to take advantage of technologies. That's just how it goes. So the point is that, if you're kind of thinking about your digital footprint, well, how do you protect that, right? If you're thinking about your, home devices, how do you protect that? Your data for, cameras in your home, to locks, to Wi-Fi, all these things are susceptible to some form of an attack vector.
Right.
And I think people really nowadays need to start thinking more carefully of how do they up their OPSEC, how do they reduce their outstanding risk for being attacked and getting basically some aspects of their identity stolen.
Yeah.
Um, Same thing with money movement, right? Like in crypto, we often talk about um, blockchain is very public, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can be an address on the blockchain, but if someone figures out, oh, this is his address, as in like, your multi-letter alphanumeric address, then they now know like how much money you're moving in and out of an account. Though it's public, they can't touch it, but they know. So at least in crypto, we've kind of solved this with like these things we call mixers, where
Mm-hmm.
a transaction kind of gets thrown into a mixer, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and it gets broken up into like hundreds or thousands of transactions. And it's basically a mixer where, okay, even if they know the originating wallet, they won't know the destination, or vice versa.
You want to hear a fun fact? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but I don't know if you know this, but you know the what the password was when the heist was happening in Paris for the
Dude, I
museum?
heard, yeah, that shit was basic, right?
The password for their security system at the Louvre was Louvre.
Wow, dude. They deserve to get attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that, for sure.
Like the literally, I was like, "What's the?" They're like Louvre.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in the future, you're going to have more and more passkey slash like biometrics play, right?
Yeah.
It's inevitable whether you watch like the Bond movies or, Mission Impossible and shit. That's kind of where we're heading anyway.
Right.
I just think that, this is a very important topic just because we're getting into a world where technology is accelerated exponentially. Every single year, every 5 years, your digital footprint, your information, your passwords, the money movement, everything is getting digitized to a point, even healthcare data, right? It's getting digitized to a point where, you know, how does one sort of keep a clamp on the controls of it? I don't really know, but I do know that there are certain solutions that are being implemented, you know, on a one-off basis, like, digital footprints. You can do cleansing methods, like I use Cloaked, CLOAKED,
Mm-hmm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
removes your digital footprint online,
Yeah.
cleans up your emails and your numbers and shit from different websites that you don't want, where your data is just like just sitting there.
Yeah.
Um, and in crypto, like there's encryption technologies. There's mixers like Zcash is a new one that's come up as a privacy sort of coin. So I just thought that this is a really important topic, and I highly encourage our audience to sort of start really thinking about, where is my data visible? what aspects of, my home, whether it's cameras to locks to apps that I use, all
Yeah.
things related, can that be susceptible?
Also, another thing that I kind of want to point out, 2 points actually. Um, all of that stuff, I think, important, necessary, but I also wouldn't like. You should up your security wherever you can. There's no there's no doubt about that. Keep things as private as you possibly can, especially digitally. You don't want people spying on you. But the other point that I do want to try and make, just to kind of play a little bit of a devil's advocate in sorts, is that don't go so overboard and so crazy to the point where you just start becoming so paranoid about who's looking at your stuff and who can crack this and who's going to steal that and stuff like that, to the point where you just start losing your mind over it. Because I know some people that are like that.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
I mean, it's kind of like, don't fucking put your money into buying a bunker.
Right. And like,
Right.
yeah. And like the reason why I bring up that point is because chances are, and the chances are very low, that someone is trying to target you directly via your IoT stuff at home. Very, very small.
Very true. Yeah.
Think about this, right? Like when a data breach happens, right? It's not targeted. It's just they're trying to get as much data en masse.
Yeah.
Just like you said, right? So it's not a targeted approach, and it's going to happen, and it's going to continue happening where people take passwords from an account online that you signed up for, maybe has some credit card information attached to it. I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to be the last time it's going to happen, during this time, right? It's
Yeah.
going to keep happening. You just have to learn how to protect yourself, right?
That's a very good point. I think thus far what we've seen is larger corporations fail at the, data breach level,
Mm-hmm.
where, for example, like the Yahoos and the what was it called, like some Fairfax or whatever the hell it was called back in the day. These guys all had a lot of data breaches, and
Wasn't it the credit monitoring?
Yahoo, huh?
Was it Equifax?
Equifax,
The
that's what it's
credit
called.
monitoring
Yes,
software.
credit monitoring.
Yeah.
There was like a stat that I had read about how I think it's like 6% of all American social security numbers are floating on the dark web. Like that's
No way.
fucking crazy, bro.
That is crazy.
And I think even, a higher percentage than that of names and addresses, right?
Right.
And probably like a decent, percentage of credit cards too. So I do think that on a corporate level, yes, that has been happening. But now, because of the advent of, AI being utilized in so many IoT devices,
Yeah.
I think one has to really, really think a little bit more closely of, like you said, the password of the Louvre being Louvre. Like, what the fuck?
But that's a very easy thing
Yeah.
to update and secure, and it's just the minor things. Like
Exactly.
another big thing, kind of on the same breath of the Louvre thing, is don't keep all your passwords the same across everything.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Like, don't make your password I love dogs 123 and it be your Gmail password, your whatever it is, your home password for your security cameras, your whatever it is. Like you shouldn't keep it the same thing. Now, another thing I want to add to that is what people say is, well, I have just way too many accounts and I have way too many passwords. I could never remember them all.
Yes.
I think that's a fair, thing to say. I think a lot of people have that issue, let's just call it. But I think you need to either, like, one practice that I've done is I'll have a actual notebook sitting in my study, which has a list of basically all of my accounts that I could think of, and it's updated whenever I can. And I physically write down what the actual password is. It's effectively offline, and I would know what the different passwords are.
Yeah.
And then if I need to access something, I know exactly where to go to get that password. And it's offline. It kind of secures you in that sense. But if that's not your vibe, there's a lot of apps out there that can store all of your passwords for you.
The crazy thing is, dude, one of those apps got hacked.
I know.
1’s, right?
So I was actually going to follow this up later as like, but things that are digital end up getting hacked anyway.
Yes.
So like a digital password manager can get hacked too and can leak all your passwords.
Yeah.
So that is a thing. Again, it's hard to be like that is a foolproof solution to something, because it's, things are going to happen, but you also have to remember it's not a targeted thing. It just en masse, that's what could happen.
Yes.
So don't get so paranoid over this stuff. But there's two things that you need to do. Either, if that's too hard, get a password manager.
Yeah.
And just just go that way, and that will actually ease your life up. But on top of the password manager thing, get an authenticator.
2FAs, 100%.
Yeah. Or MFA, whatever the fuck
Yes.
it's called nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, multi-factor authentication, right? Two-factor authentication. Same thing.
I like that we have, sort of made it easier for people in society to use 2FAs, the MFAs, or even like passkeys. Just so people know, like the MFAs can be something as simple as like a USB device, which kind of sits on your keychain. You need that device to be able to access as a secondary sort of key to open a certain lock, if you will, like for a website or your computer or whatever.
Right.
2FA is very similar, where it's like, a recurring, 6-digit number set that refreshes every 60 seconds, and you get to access that and, to plug in again as like a secondary, lock, if you will, for your passwords or whatever you're trying to access. And then the third being, what was the third I was talking about? MFAs, 2FAs. Oh, passkeys, right? Biometrics, right? Something as simple as Apple Face ID, thumbprints, fingerprints.
Biometrics.
Yeah, exactly. So those things, I'm really glad that we're making that stuff more easy for people to access in society, because it's intuitive, right? You don't need to learn a whole course to understand how 2FAs or passkeys work.
I actually use Google Authenticator for a lot of my
Same.
high privacy things.
Same.
So whenever I need to access, let's say, my network at home, whatever it is, it's always going to ask me for authenticator password, a 6-digit combo, which I then open up my Google Authenticator app, pop that in, and it lets me in.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, this, funny enough, like this kind of gets me into my next topic, which, we talked about how privacy kind of runs almost as a horizontal, where you're trying to protect yourself personally, right? You're trying to make sure that your digital footprint is somewhat cloaked. And then you're also trying to figure out, your financial footprint too, right? How much money you're moving, whether it's banks or crypto. And so this kind of bleeds into crypto / stablecoins. Now, stablecoins are also a very prevalent form of, financial communication, if you will. What's happening nowadays is there's significant amounts of commerce being conducted in stablecoins.
So you're going to have to break down what a stablecoin is for me, because to me, whenever I hear anything coin, I immediately think crypto, which this is in the same family, but I think of like, Dogecoin, right? Like I can maybe trade Dogecoin using the Robinhood app, and like that's kind of what I think of. But stable coins are kind of an offshoot, but different.
Yeah, so stable coins are basically there's two very popular stable coins right now. One is USDC, which is US dollar, created by Circle. That's kind of what the C sort of stands for, I think. Circle is like this public listed company on the American Stock Exchange, and they've created a stable coin, meaning $1, one US dollar equals one USDC, the stable coin, right? So it's just like a synthetic stable coin equals one US dollar.
So it's a stable coins ratio always 1-to-1?
Always 1-to-1. And there's another similar stable coin, which we call USDT, T as in Tom, and that stands for Tether. Okay, US dollar, Tether.
Now, is Tether a different type of crypto?
Tether is also another form of like stablecoin / crypto.
Okay.
And they both fall into the crypto bucket. But the problem is like Circle has created this stablecoin, which they can still block it, right? They can still track it. And again, this goes back to the privacy aspect, which is if you are trying to move money anywhere in the world, what is the first and foremost thing that you want to do? You want it to be fast, you want it to be cheap, and you don't want it to be censored, meaning you don't want it to be blocked or generally tracked, right? Circle does not allow, unfortunately, for you to escape that aspect, which is, you cannot avoid being tracked. You cannot avoid being blocked.
Right.
USDT, okay, Tether, allows all those features, which is it's fast, it's cheap, it's global, but then also you cannot get blocked on your transaction, and very difficult to track too, right?
And is there like a
Like,
limit to how much you could send? Like
no,
only
that's kind of the great part, which is like, both these chains are in fact both these stablecoins are in fact very cheap to move. Okay, so you can move anywhere from $1 to $1 billion for effectively the same price, because it's synthetic. It doesn't matter, right? It's just digital. It's kind of like, sending an email. Like, does one email cost you more money than the other? No, it's all freaking free, right? Stablecoins are effectively that. They're almost close to as free as possible. It's not free, but it's damn near free. So the good thing about stablecoins is, number one, I'm trying to connect it to the privacy aspect, which is Tether, allowing people the ability to send, effectively in full privacy, anonymously, right? You could do a lot of like digging and try to really, really figure out, like if you're the CIA, I'm pretty fucking sure you can figure out your Tether transaction.
Sure.
But with Circle, like they definitely know who you are and they definitely know who you're sending it to. And in fact, they can block it. Tether, you definitely cannot block it. Okay. Now, the point of this is stablecoins are becoming very, very popular because what's happening is, the world itself is kind of seeing that, hey, we are becoming a more and more global place, and crypto is very, it's a non-geographically like loyal market, if you will, right? Meaning it's accessible all over the world. It's accessible 24/7.
Borderless, essentially.
It's
Like borders don't exist in this world.
Exactly. It's a totally
Yeah.
borderless, market. And it's also porous in a way where money can be moved in and out via stable coins from any person, whether you're a good or bad entity, by the way, right? But that's kind of what comes with the technology. And so, stable coins, I think, are in fact one of the best technologies I think that has come out of crypto, right? Because there's truly a crypto native like, technology. And like I was giving an example to one of my friends of, back in the day, if you were to send money to our family in India, you would use Western Union. And that time to transact was like, from 3 days upwards to like 7 to 10 days, business days, that is, right? And the transaction cost would have been anywhere from, 8% to about a 20% charge. If this was in the 90s, that is.
Right.
Going into the 2000s, the advent of banks and the SWIFT system, that transaction may not have gone through Western Union. Maybe that came through like a Citibank, maybe you're doing international wires through like your JP Morgans. Again, that incurs a $25 transaction flat fee or somewhere between like a 1 to 2% charge. And again, the settlement time is probably like 3 days to 5 business days. Now, you're in this modern 2020s era where even like for my family in India, I'm sending them stable coins. That is instant settlement.
Really?
Instant settlement. And it's zero fees. And
So-
my cousins are more than happy to take it because they're like, fuck yeah, we don't have to deal with like, a 2-day gap and cost that's going to get eaten out of the larger transaction,
So like break this down for me a little bit further, right? Let's unpack it. So I don't know if this is going to be the example to use, but let's work with it for a second. I have $100 US currency sitting in my Bank of America bank account. I want to send you that $100, but I want to send it via stablecoin. How do I do that?
Okay, so this aspect, I think crypto is still working on to make it more seamlessly. But for now, to answer your question directly, you have to first go through what we would call a crypto broker, right? There are crypto exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken. There's even like onboarding or on-ramping and off-ramping venues like MoonPay, where you can exchange money from your debit or credit or bank into stablecoins.
The reason why I bring this up, just to kind of let you know what my thought process is and asking the question, is you're sending money to your cousins in India. How are they using it?
Yeah. So again, this is a very important aspect, and this is where the last mile solution has not been created. Meaning, the world itself is not transacting fully end to end in stablecoins. Meaning, you still have to get back out into your bank account, right? So if I'm sending stablecoins from America, from me to my cousin in India, my cousin still has to take these stablecoins. He has to go to a crypto exchange, sell it back into his local currency. Because obviously he can't use a stablecoin. He's going to use rupees to transact. So he still needs to sell that stablecoin down into the rupee, and then he withdraws that rupee into the bank account. Now, I'm really glad you asked this, because this is where the final sort of me, putting a bow on this topic goes. All right, this is how I see the world panning out in the next 10 years, okay?
Okay.
I think that stable coins are a Trojan horse. And if you guys are not familiar with the Trojan horse analogy, look up like what the Romans did. Okay,
I
so
feel like people who don't know this now.
okay, so it's basically like, imagine like a fucking wooden horse
Yeah.
where, they're trying to get into another empire or another, king's castle or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, here's a gift. It's a wooden horse, but inside the wooden horse is like a bunch of men with fucking weapons.
Right.
And they know they're going to kill the king. But you don't know, as you're letting this thing into your empire, like, oh no, it's a cool looking horse. When in reality, like, it's basically you, infiltrating, right? So I think stablecoins are very similar in that they are masquerading as this very unique, cool technology, when in reality, I think what's happening is the proliferation of US dollars all over the world. So the Indian rupee is going to slowly be, I think, chipped away. The Ghanaian, whatever their currency is, or the dirham in the UAE, or
The yen in China.
like the yuan in China, or
Yuan,
the yen,
sorry.
the
Yeah.
yen in Japan,
Yeah.
the euro in Europe. The point is that as the dollar via stable coins proliferates, the dollar itself is being accepted, right? Because my cousin in India, he's slowly going to say, well, wait a second. I see that the rupee has lost, 12% in the last year, whereas the dollar is still maintaining its, pretty strong hegemony like all over the world. Maybe there might be some venues in India, in China, in Japan that do take stable coins. Now you have accessibility for your stable coins to be utilized as they are, which is the dollar, just in synthetic terms. And now you're effectively circumventing your own government system, which is the rupee, right? So think about it, like in 10, 20 years, people are going to start using, stable coins in the Trojan horse way of the dollar being slowly implemented into society, because one, people get to effectively they get to have fast, zero cost, instant settlement for you to move money back and forth, and you get to be part of the dollar network, which is global, and you get to be part of the dollar currency, which is much stronger than the relative rupee or the yuan or peso. So why would you not want this? And so this is why I think stable coins are going to be like one of the biggest things in the next 10, 20 years.
So here's to play devil's advocate a little bit. Devil's advocate. Here's what people would say about crypto and stable coins and everything right now, included members of our current government system, which seem like they're, very open about crypto, but some, there are some skeptics where they're just like, well, this promotes, a wider black market. This promotes more white collar crime. This promotes, since if everything's anonymous, you'll never know, and you'll never be able to track down the bad guys or the bad actors. This promotes all of that. What do you say to that?
This is such a fantastic point, because it completely ties into my privacy point. Now you can kind of see, you put these two things together, what does that do? You are effectively creating a broader system in crypto that is allowing people an opt-out solution, which has never in the history of humanity ever been created.
Yeah, but
Other than the
if you're so big on privacy, as I feel like a lot of people do care about their privacy,
yes,
wouldn't you assume a lot of people be like, well, if my transaction is going to be anonymous, why wouldn't I do that?
say that again.
So I guess my question is, to put it more bluntly, wouldn't people be wider adopters if this was more private?
They are. It's happening at a pretty exponential pace, right? But it's not happening at the pace where everybody's starting to use it, because here's the thing. Most of society, especially in the Western world, is stable. Most of society in many other parts of the world is not. I would argue that history has stated over and over again, governments have the ability, and in fact, more often than not, the you know, they have very little reason to allow people to live totally autonomously, without, a larger oversight. And so they are more often than not keen to overstep their bounds in breaching this privacy, governments, that is. So what does that mean? Well,
So
they
so are
might
you
clamp down on the solution of you being able to withdraw X amount of money.
so
This
are
is,
you
by the way,
yeah.
this is a real example of what just happened in the UK, probably like 2 to 3 weeks ago. You guys can look this up. You will see that the UK already started to implement solutions of, hey, you're not allowed to withdraw X amount of crypto or X amount of stable coins, right? You're not allowed to withdraw X amount of money out of your bank account. And, like, this was another thing that happened in Venezuela and Argentina, right? UK is going through what people would classify as a brain drain, where a lot of young people, as well as like rich people, socioeconomic, well-doing people, are leaving the country because the taxes are high or crime is high. But the government is doing its best to sort of clamp down on those, not in the right way. They're doing everything that they can in the worst fucking possible way, which is like creating, suppressive instruments to dissuade people from withdrawing more money, or making it more difficult for them to, maybe avoid taxes.
So kind of hammering on the point a little bit more, what you're kind of sounds like you're saying to me is that there's always going to be bad actors regardless.
And in this case, I'm telling you that the government is the bad actor.
Okay, that's a hot take.
Yeah, it's a hot as fuck take. And I think that crypto is, especially stable coins, are the one solution where this is what I said, right? It's kind of like the Trojan horse, where the governments are slowly like allowing it because they're like, well, it's a proliferating technology, and young people like it, and it's cool because it's like a flat digital ledger accessible all over the world, right? Why would you not want that? Like, it's cool. It enables so much commerce to be conducted globally. You don't have to worry about your local currency risk. For example, like, I put one of my buddies from Zambia onto stablecoins. Like, he runs a business, massive multi-million-dollar business. I was like, dude, why don't you just try to put, like, I don't know, 5%, maybe even 1% of whatever revenue that you do into stablecoins, right? Meaning the dollar, effectively, right? He's like, okay, let me try that. Well, in that small amount of time, in like 2 or 3 quarters, I think he probably saved, like, in just the 1% of revenue that he did, he'd save thousands of dollars. Now think of that, at scale, done through his entire company revenue, where he's able to, escape the risk of his local currency being dog shit, which is the Zambian kwacha. Okay. The kwacha has been devalued ungodly to the fucking levels of like hell,
Mm-hmm.
against the dollar, that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would his multi-million-dollar, business not want that escape path? Why would, a sweet shop, small business in remote parts of India not want that, right? At the end of the day, we are still in a
Yeah.
global world. Unless you're like in a small fucking village, you want your exposure of your local currency risk to be protected.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'll wrap it up there. I highly encourage people to try to get like a crypto wallet. Start, even if you put $5, $10 in there, you will see sort of the benefits of understanding this technology on like a real-time basis and experimenting with it, because that $5 to $10 could be the very thing that saves you in the future from, any sort of government overreach that may or may not occur.
Speaking of $5 or $10 in government overreach, I want to talk about our $1.8 trillion problem.
Oh shit, are we talking about student loans?
Hell yeah.
Oh my god, dude. I got a lot to say about student loans, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Well, what I want to do first is for our listeners, I just want to. So the reason why I'm bringing this topic up now is I feel like during the last presidency, the Biden era, let's just call it that, there was a lot of talk about student loans this, student loans that, student forgiveness this, student forgiveness that. There's a lot of loans out there. There's a lot of people that are struggling. There's, interest is outweighing, the actual principles on these loans and XYZ. And then Donald Trump kind of comes in. He goes like, everyone's got to start paying that stuff back. And, oh, wait, but some people can actually get their loans forgiven. And then there's been a lot of hoopla around the government policies around student loans. But then I feel like for the past almost 3 to 6 months, or I would say that within that time frame, things about the student loan conversations have just kind of like dwindled away. Maybe because there's bigger things going on, like, missiles shooting out Venezuelan boats. And,
Trump is fucking wild for that, bro.
Yeah, the Kirk shooting, if you want to call it, another a big event that's happened. There's a lot of these other things that are kind of put this topic more or less to the back burner, but I kind of want to talk about it now, given everything that's been going on. So one interesting stat that I do want to bring up, though, is as of this year, 42.7 million Americans have some type of outstanding federal student loan debt.
Not surprised, bro.
Right.
Hey, I'm one of those numbers.
You have outstanding student loan debt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm still paying that shit, bro.
Nice. I do too.
Yeah.
But as far as U.S. student loan debt as a total, now if you include federal and private, that's that roughly $1.8 trillion number that I was coming to.
Yeah. Not surprised, though.
Yeah, and that was give or take around the mid of this year. That's where we're at.
I'll tell you another hot take. Like, okay, I don't know if you know this number, but if you were to like draw a average curve on the entire outstanding debt, what do you think that would be? Like the average interest rate on the entire debt for all people.
Average interest rate?
Yes.
I want to say I looked this up earlier, but
okay.
I forgot the number. But I want to say it's closer to 18 to 20%.
Okay. I don't know if it's 18 to 20%. Maybe you're right. I would say it's closer to like 12, which is still fucking high.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Now I'm actually curious. I want to look up what the
because I know for a fact,
average
like when I was in
interest rate.
college, I'm pretty sure my average was closer to like maybe 8 or 9, but I'm pretty sure like after that, a lot of people I spoke to and people, let's just say now or a decade after, I'm pretty sure they stepped it up, right? Step it up closer to like 12, 14, etc.
Yeah. I mean, I know the range is pretty high. Like, I know it can be anywhere from 3% to close to 18%.
It's crazy, bro. It's fucking highway robbery.
Yeah. I mean, so I want to get into like the little bit of the nitty gritty of it, but then I also want to kind of talk broadly about the entire American student loan saga.
Let's
right?
do it.
So the average debt per borrower is still very high. So this is another one of the stats that I read.
Quiz me. I think I know this.
So, so I'll pose it as like a blank, and then you kind of fill in the blank, okay? So many recent student grads leave college owing blank to blank, depending on school degree level and whether loans are federal or private. What do you think that ranges?
That ranges? Okay, I'm going to take a wild stab. I'm going to say 28,000 to about 64,000.
That's actually not bad. You're fairly close. Yeah, it's about 25,000 to about 40,000.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
The higher number the larger end of the range I thought would be much higher.
Yeah, I thought so too. But apparently that's the average.
That's not okay.
Per borrower, right? The trouble is interest rates can kind of
Okay, then
balloon that number to
easy.
exorbitant amounts,
Yeah.
right? So that's the problem. So like despite all of the policy efforts that have been going on, the total debt load just grows and grows every single decade. So to the point where it's not a young adult problem like I'm in my teens, I'm in my 20s, 40s, 50s, and some even older still carry a lot of their debt today.
Bro, fucking Obama didn't pay off his loans till he was president. Goddamn.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to do some research and be like, okay, what are the actual issues and challenges that borrowers are facing? And I kind of broke it down into about 4 or 5 different bullet points. So one is that around the COVID era there was a pause, right? So loan collections actually resumed this year. And defaulted federal student loans are again going to be collected.
Yep.
So borrowers who fell behind now face these potential wage garnishment, tax refund offsets, or other collection actions.
That's crazy, dude.
That's one thing. So repayment, let's just call it repayment bouncing back or collections restart. That's one point, right? The second is there's so much hoopla around this forgiveness stuff, right? So like there's so much uncertainty around it and uncertainty around repayments that people who are hoping for, broad forgiveness of any kind, they were kind of shot down with that, with the Biden stuff that happened, right? He brought in this legislation, kind of like a,
Yeah, pay off your student loans or whatever.
yeah,
right?
but it was used from old legislation to be like, oh, we can use this as, we can, I forget exactly what the law or legislation was, but basically gave the government some power to be like, okay, maybe we can erase the student loan debt. But it was fought in court and ultimately decided you can't use that legislation towards that because it has broad appeal
Yeah.
or something along the lines of that. But that's what I mean. Like, there's always fights in court about this. There's always legality that's involved. There's always, oh, you can't do this with this legislation, or you can do this legislation. There's just so much uncertainty and around this whole forgiveness thing, and even just simple repayments. Like, how does repayment start? When do I start repaying? Is this based on income based? Do I apply for that? Like, there's a lot of these questions and some of these that people don't even look into, right? So let's take the income driven repayment. All right, that's an option, or IDR, that's what they call it, right?
Yep.
So plans like these are tying payments into income and offering forgiveness after 20 to 25 years and have faced disruptions, right? So basically whatever your income is, they can kind of look at that and be like, this is how much you can pay back. But after paying off close to 20, 25 years, then forgiveness may be up as an option, right? So there's that. But again, administrative stuff, legal stuff, that's kind of put pause to some of the income driven repayments and forgiveness stuff. So there's a lot of complications dealing with that. There's actually complications in billing too. I know a lot of people are like, I was supposed to start owing money like 2 months ago, but I never got an email, I never got a call, I never got anything. So I have to pay these arrears along with all of this interest, and no one ever told me, and now it's actually affecting my credit.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a huge thing, because one of the reasons why a lot of people in our cohort, millennials, couldn't get approved for home loans because they had these massive outstanding student loans too.
Yes.
Right? So the other thing that this kind of leads me to, which is kind of point 4, is the general longevity of the debt and these issues that can happen because of this debt. One of them being can't buy a home, kind of a thing, right? So because many are carrying this loan for decades and effectively paying very little principal and heavy on the interest, they impact a lot of decisions, not only homes, but like starting a family.
Yeah, everything.
Right? Like, think about, like, okay,
it's all related.
Yeah, it's all kind of intertwined. Like, do I pay off my student loans or do I save for retirement?
Yeah. No,
right?
It's a really good point. I mean, we talked about this off air, but I think that it is inevitable that both parties will come to a consensus and they'll say, hey, neither of us want to fuck over the young generation, which is already kind of, sitting under the gun. They're probably going to forgive student loans, right? I think to a large degree, because you already have such a large voting block that is sitting, with these heavy loan debts, if one party says yes and the other says no, you're really isolating and dissuading, the voting bloc to vote for one versus the other.
Right.
Right? It's weaponizing basically a particular, voting topic, if you will.
Yeah, and another thing to kind of note is that, as far as, this is kind of my fifth point, is that the let's, like, if you take student loans as like a distribution, right? The highest burden of people who carry the largest student loan debts are, graduate level loans or multi-degree loans.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've done the undergrad, they want to borrow for a master's, they want to borrow for PhDs, they want to go higher and higher and higher. And these are the people that seem to be struggling the most with paying them off. So people who borrowed over many years may have less stable repayment terms or just fewer protections at all compared to people who are borrowing right now.
Yeah, of course. I don't know, man. It's a very tricky topic. I really think that both parties at some point will clear the student loans. I think the young people we have kind of seen in society have been feeling a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I don't see that how this $1.8 trillion weight, especially on young people, is going to be tenable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's going to get cleared out, honestly. And I think I'm not saying it should, but I think it will. I have my own sort of views on sort of, socializing the losses, because that is effectively what's going to happen.
Right.
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 It's not like the money comes out of fucking thin air. What
Right.
you're really doing is you're saying that, instead of, 5 million people owing 1.8 trillion, it's now going to be 350 million people owing this entire 1.8 trillion in the form of, I don't know, a tax or a wider debt.
Right.
But then again, we've been doing this shit for so long. What do you think the $38 trillion national debt means? It is a debt on every single person, on every corporation, on the government having, a countrywide debt, meaning the debt is on all of us. So what's fucking one more? What's another 1.8 trillion?
I mean, when I look at the whole student loan landscape, there's, I don't think, especially on the federal level, right, there's not much that's helping borrowers than what's hurting them.
Yeah.
Right? Like income-based repayment, yeah, that's one thing. Targeted forgiveness, that's one thing. But it doesn't help the broader swath of people who own all of this debt, right? You could be like, okay, resuming collections will kind of stabilize the loan system, and help the federal budget from a perspective from balancing the federal budget, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you could say that works from when you resume collections, but there's a lot of headwinds in the sense that the policy changes are never there. The interest outweighs, whatever you have to pay on it. The principal never goes down. You have to put off starting a family. You have to put off starting a home. The debt burden just piles up. I mean, and you were kind of teased with forgiveness, and then that's kind of taken away because of a group of students were like, oh, we don't qualify for this forgiveness, so we're gonna legally challenge it, and they won that challenge.
Yeah.
And screwed it up for the rest of the people. I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of headwinds for people trying to get over the student loan hump.
Mm-hmm.
Is the solution broad forgiveness, or is it just getting to a point where you come up with another solution to get them? Is there a hybrid solution where we want to collect the money back as the federal government, but we figure out a much, much better way to do it?
Well, that is a question for the politicians. Let Daddy Mamdani figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's just one mayor though, right?
Yeah, but I think as a society, this is the direction that we're trending in. The direction that we're trending in is, we as a society have not put into place safeguards. We have not put into place, proper solutions where young students who are walking out with this kind of debt, even now have the ability to have some job, some, like solace to figure out, oh, okay, it's fine if I have 30K in student debt. I'm making a reasonable amount of money. I don't have to worry about my living expenses and my food expenses and my healthcare expenses eating into the cost of me being able to survive just so I can or cannot pay the student loans, right? I think this is the larger problem that needs to be solved. Student loans is not the problem. The problem is that, do people have a sustainable income and their other costs being lowered where they can, pay off these loans?
So some people say, and this is a group of people that say that like, oh, well, you're giving these kids thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loans for essentially a degree that has little to no ROI.
Yeah, I've heard that bullshit, bro. Like, these are woke degrees and all that. I don't buy it. And the reason I don't buy it is I actually just had this conversation with another person I did a podcast with. Sorry, I'm cheating on you.
No, it's no.
But we talked about this of last year the sort of flavor of the year was like financial nihilism, where young people felt more and more outcasted in society because they're not able to take part in the larger gains that are being felt, whether it's in the real estate or the stock market, partly because they just don't have that much income or expendable income at that. And so, if you graduate with like a woke degree, right, sort of bringing this topic back around, this is not a fair take because there are people I speak to, when I went to New York, I keep up with younger college students from my alma mater. They talk about having degrees in electrical engineering and computer science and computer information technology. They're not your typical liberal arts history degrees, right? These are people who graduated with something decent. And yet, our younger folks that we chat with, they said that 6 months out of graduation they're still looking for a job. This is kind of the case that a lot of young people are dealing with. And I know for a fact that there is no way that you could tell me, whether it's woke degrees or not, even if you got a job, that job is not able to keep up, like your income is not able to keep up with the standard of living costs that are required to live in like a like a decent aspect of society. Like maybe you could be in fucking like corner of Idaho, but then you may not have a job, right?
But like here's the thing, right? So the point I guess that they're trying to make is, as of right now, if you graduate with a computer science degree and you can't get a job, that I understand to a certain degree, because tech companies are cutting jobs. There's a whole shift. There's this AI revolution that's happening, and that no one really predicted it or knew that was going to happen until a couple of years ago. So I truly feel bad for them. But like, what do you make of the people with these fine arts degrees, these English degrees, these history degrees? Like, if you're not teaching that, and teachers make a miserable salary in the United States, what is kind of your other prospects? Like, wouldn't you argue that like these degrees are not getting their ROI?
I mean, that's a fair point. I think that's a whole separate discussion on these guys picking the degrees that are seemingly worthless.
Yeah,
I don't know the solution to that, right?
because
you made a shitty choice, and maybe society could have stopped you from making that decision, but you're kind of stuck with it now. I don't know, maybe give them a 50% cut.
Because the reason why I bring this up is like, I know a couple of people who, graduated with English degrees and went on to get PhDs and went on to get masters and stuff like that. And the point I made earlier was that a lot of the people who are in this debt burden are people with multi-level degrees and master's degrees, and they're just piling on this debt, right?
Yeah.
That's one aspect of it. So like, what would you say to someone that has something like that and was like, well, I have well over $350,000, $400,000 worth of debt, which is essentially a mortgage, but maybe if I do find a job, my job is only $60,000 to $80,000.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the solution to that. And honestly, I think these are going to be like problems till the end of time. I think humans will always make bad financial decisions, whether it's getting a shitty degree or, buying a car or a ring or a home or, fancy like Rolex watches to the end of time. They're going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to get themselves in a bad debt position. And
But student loans are always supposed to be an investment in your future.
I mean, technically a Rolex watch is a appreciating asset versus, a fucking college degree, which one could argue is not really appreciating, right? A Rolex watch can continuously gain its value over time, especially a good one. And, the college degree, a degree in general nowadays, is being worth less and less because of education itself being, I don't know, like ubiquitous, free, easily accessible. New skills can be learned. Your job and your skill set can be replaced with, a 30-minute class in AI every day. Like, I don't know how to measure these things, but I
Yeah.
don't think these are problems that like we will ever be able to necessarily solve.
Yeah.
It's more of like, okay, well, we could do our best to chip away at it. Like I said, I don't know, maybe a 50% haircut or something, to the loans for shitty degrees. But a
Right.
computer science degree, and I think I have more, I don't know, sympathy for that, right? Like if you graduated now, or even if you graduated 5-10 years ago, and you're struggling with student loans, and especially now in the landscape of the job market, you're not able to find a job. I don't know. That's a tough situation, dude.
I know. So I actually want to encourage all of our listeners to actually log in online, go in and check your loan statuses,
Yes.
and understand what your repayment plan options are. If it's standard, if there's a way to refinance them, if there's an income-based approach that you can take, and continue to kind of look out and stay informed on any of those changes, because this landscape, from what I'm understanding, seems to be changing pretty frequently. It seems to be based on who's in the White House and who's not, who's around, who's the Secretary of Education, who's not, and a lot of that stuff keeps changing. So definitely, if you have those loans, keep your ear to the ground. Make sure you stay up to date. Log in, check your statuses, and make sure you're doing all the legwork there.
There you go.
So I think that's our pod for today.
That's our wrap, man.
Yes, sir. If you think we missed something or you got a topic you want us to overanalyze next, hit the comments and we'll try and get to the best ones. But until next time, peace.
Later.
Put a crush out. Put a crush out. Put a crush out.